BAM Radio Network.
I've met several of my colleagues, even though they're not in my district, but they're in driving distance. So we've actually met up to have coffee. We've shared different apps that we're using in the classroom, different projects that our kids are creating. So I think that for me, Twitter's been the most powerful just because it's a really rapid-fire, quick exchange of information. And it's just been really powerful to meet people not only far away, but at close home, too, so that you can meet in person face-to-face. And then visit each other's classrooms, too. That's been great. And it's all come from Twitter.
Hello, it's time for Teacher's Aid, strategies, tools, and tactics for the challenges teachers face. I'm Ray Pica.
Teresa Roebuck, president of the Global Association for Teacher Empowerment, wrote, quote, "What is it about the teaching profession that makes it generate such a sense of isolation? There might be as many explanations for this as there are teachers out there, but I imagine the main reason is in the simple daily realities of the job. We generally spend the greater part of our day in a closed environment behind closed doors with 20 or so other people who generally don't want to be there with us." End quote. Feeling isolated stinks, frankly, and it's not conducive to doing good work. Regardless of your teaching situation, chances are you've experienced the loneliness and lack of support that come from working in your own little silo. Social media tools and personal learning networks, known as PLNs, are today's answers to the problem. Here to address the topic with me are Lisa Nielsen, Rob Mancabelli, Nick Provenzano, and Erin Klein. Hello, everyone. Rob, tell us in a little nutshell what a personal learning network is.
A personal learning network is a global network of people and information that you interact with each and every day. It's the sum total of all the kinds of connections that you used to make in face-to-face, and those people still might be part of a network like that. But now it will include people that you've never even met face-to-face but are an important part of influencing the way you think and the kinds of things that you understand both personally and professionally.
Okay, Lisa, how can a PLN remedy feelings of isolation for a teacher?
Personal learning networks are really a great way to remedy the feeling of isolation because they allow you to quickly and easily find other people who share your passions and interests once you know the literacy of that particular network in places such as Facebook or knowing hashtags in Twitter.
Erin, your thoughts on that?
I agree. Personal learning networks, for me, really support the lifestyle that I have as a mom with two children. A lot of times I have to leave school relatively soon after class ends, but when I get home and I can relax, I can network with people not only in my community but in my state and then across the globe as well. So I'm not only sharing ideas with people in Michigan, but people truly across the world. So I'm getting a lot larger perspective.
Nick, what are your experiences with PLNs? I mean, how can connecting with people thousands of miles away make a teacher feel less isolated?
Well, sometimes there are many teachers in departments, in buildings, or in districts that are really innovative and they want to try and do new things, but they are kind of alone, really by themselves in their building in their district because other people aren't as willing to try these things. So a PLN using social media allows you to connect with these other teachers that feel just as isolated, and all of a sudden you're no longer isolated. You're now just a few characters away from connecting with someone who shares this new passion of integrating technology or trying project-based learning or flip the classroom. So really these are great things that allow a teacher to knock down walls and connect with people that share similar passions.
Yeah, when I think of PLNs, I imagine sharing with people all over the globe. But Rob, your book talks about building learning networks within a school or district. Tell us a bit about that.
Sure, and building PLNs locally moves your work oftentimes beyond the teacher themselves and to the students as well. Many times a teacher has met someone from another school that's nearby and wants the opportunity to interact with them, but an occasional email really isn't enough to keep the relationship and the conversation going. So they'll begin interfacing with that teacher via Twitter or Facebook or whatever the medium is, and that'll often turn into a conversation that'll go beyond supporting each other in their work and turn into their classes sharing with each other and their students sharing with each other, and it can really establish integrated relationships among students and teachers in the greater community, and that can fan out into all kinds of different spaces.
Lisa, let's help teachers figure this out. You wrote an article outlining 5 things to be done to begin developing a PLN. So how do I start?
So it's basically called the 5 C's. So the 5 C's of developing your personal learning network are consider, consume, converse, create, and celebrate. And the way that works is the first thing that I recommend people do is really consider their purpose for building a personal learning network and how is this going to change their teaching and learning. And the next step is to consume. So pick some areas to get really familiar with and start consuming information there, places like blogs or a professional network such as Classroom 2.0. Join social networks like Facebook or LinkedIn. Check out Twitter. And then once you've done that, you're ready to actually start conversing. You've looked at it, you've watched, you see what's going on. So become a part of this conversation, start commenting, reply to a tweet. After that, it's time to create. So you can think about creating your own blogs or initiating a tweet. When you're using social media such as Facebook, you might create a group in Facebook or a page. And the final part of that is celebrating the fact that you're on your way to becoming a globally connected educator that's able to tap into amazing resources around the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not only with people who speak your language, but because of translation tools like Google Translate, you could speak with people who speak all languages around the world, and that is really something to celebrate.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that, different languages and translating. That's just something. Okay, so we have all these internet tools, Twitter and Facebook and blogs. Erin, what have you found to be the most beneficial to master first and most likely to help you not feel so alone?
The best tool for me has been Twitter. Speaking of people, I want to extend on what he had said earlier about people within your own community and district. I really think that that's powerful to be able to network across your own school district and your community and then be able to actually meet up. I've met several of my colleagues. I consider them colleagues even though they're not in my district, but they're in driving distance. So we've actually met up to have coffee. We've shared different apps that we're using in the classroom, different projects that our kids are creating. So I think that for me, Twitter's been the most powerful just because it's a really rapid-fire, quick exchange of information, and you can just, in 140 characters, get somebody's response, send them a message really quickly, arrange a time to meet, include a link if you need to. And it's just been really powerful to meet people not only far away, but at close home, too, so that you can meet in person face-to-face, and then visit each other's classrooms, too. That's been great, and it's all come from Twitter.
Wow. Nick, the same for you? I mean, to me, 140 characters doesn't lend itself to intimacy.
For me, I found that there is a strong relationship between my blog and Twitter. Blogging is a space for me to sometimes expand well beyond the 140 characters in a conversation I might have started on Twitter, or sometimes a blog post can inspire a series of tweets in a conversation between people. So it's actually a two-way street. For me, I started my blog, and then I started a Twitter account, and they really go hand in hand. I'll write a post, I'll share it, and then that starts a conversation. Or I'll see a conversation happen on Twitter through an Ed chat or SS chat, AIM chat, something like that, and that'll inspire me to write a post. So all of these devices, Twitter and blogs, actually inspire me to think and to connect even further with people.
Okay, so if I'm feeling really isolated and helpless and alone, powerless, whatever it might be, and I need to reach out to someone, what's the most effective method to do that? Anyone?
I think Twitter has the lowest growth curve, and, it's something you can learn in 5 minutes and know people instantly, and by using a hashtag, you can have your voice heard by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people the very first day you're using it. So there's a great opportunity there for people to connect with you.
One of the things that's really important, and Nick touched on this about the feelings of isolation, is that personal learning networks help really strengthen not only the connection of ideas, but even that human connection. And this is something that we've often been concerned about with digital, online, social media communication. And I just want to share a particular example of that. For instance, there are certain hashtags that many of us use, and oftentimes we have the conversations on Twitter using those hashtags. We also often have groups in Facebook with those same hashtags, and then we oftentimes have what are called meetups, which are face-to-face meetings. During those meetups, we promote that in Twitter and in Facebook, and then we'll have a Google Hangout so that we might have 10 people on the Google Hangout and 20 people face-to-face, and we're all really interacting in powerful ways, having found people that we would have never been able to find before if social media and this sort of outlet wasn't available to us.
No kidding. That is something. Okay, quickly, Rob, how do I find the people who are most likely to offer the support I need? Where would I begin with that?
If you want to look online, you would begin by, if you were going to use a medium like Twitter, you would look for the hashtags that apply in your field. For example, if you're in math, something like math ed is a popular hashtag. I think the one important thing to know when you start looking is at first it's going to be an uphill climb to get your network started, and not to be discouraged by that. And part of it is that you should think about it as a teacher as a personal responsibility as well. I mean, what we're talking about in personal learning networks goes beyond just ways to stop isolation. This is modeling the learning that should be happening in your classroom. When a student asks a question in class, the answer shouldn't be in the back of the book or coming from the teacher. The question asked to that student is, who in your learning network would be the best person to answer that question? I mean, there's 2 billion people available to our students online, along with exabytes of information. And, the culminating assessment for them should be, by the time they're seniors, to be able to reflect upon the global network that they've developed that represents really the way they learn.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your insights on this topic. I really appreciate it. When I first began my career as an education consultant, I was living in a beautiful little house on a beautiful little lake in a beautiful little town in New Hampshire. I worked alone at home, and I didn't know one single other person doing what I did. There was no one to point me in the right direction, no one to cheer me on, no one with whom to share my concerns, frustrations, or successes. I learned what I could from books. Eventually, I started attending conferences where I met like-minded individuals, but those were short-lived connections. And guess what? I burnt out. Had I had then what we have now in the form of social media tools, I might not have experienced that kind of emotional exhaustion. Personal learning networks are available to you. Be very, very grateful. And if you're feeling isolated, make use of them.
So do you see that like button on your screen? Yes, right there in front of you in the pop-up box. If you appreciated this segment of Teacher's Aid and would like to keep the shows coming, please click that thing for me. Thank you. This has been Ray Pico with Teacher's Aid, offering solutions to the challenges teachers face. Thanks for listening.
This program is produced by Accretive Media for the BAM Radio Network. Thanks for listening.